actually start and do some introductions, Mimi, if you like, and then once we've done that, I could check with you about apologies or anyone missing, etc. Shall I do it that way?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Let me begin by introducing myself. Thank you very much for being here. I am the independent chair and author of the local child safeguarding practice review. And yeah, I just wanted to say an enormous thank you to you for agreeing to provide information for our review. So I am going to begin with some slides. Because we're asking all sorts of different questions to different people, I want you to feel very happy and ready to just keep putting your hand up, even if it feels like a silly question, saying, does this apply to me? Because it's going to be one of those sessions where it might be a little bit imperfect and you might tell me reasons why things should or shouldn't apply to you. So just feel very kind of ready to butt in, so to speak. And I'll share a few slides at the start about process, but then we're going to get really detailed into these specific questions so that you can truly understand your task and feel really clear about writing this up. That's the aim of today. So my name is on the front there. That was my name, Donna Odedar. In terms of the plan for today, thank you, Mimi. We have done our introductions. I'm going to tell you a little bit about SILP in terms of this methodology for the review, talk about your role so that you feel very clear about what to do and when, and then we are going to look at these terms of reference questions so that everybody feels super clear on that too. So next slide, please. So the principles of this review are that whilst many reviews generate lots and lots of learning for people who are very strategic, we want this review to be an opportunity for people who are more directly involved in the situation within these cases, we'll call them for now, so that they can help us. They can help us by coming along to be collaborative and analytical with us. So we generate this information that we're talking about today. We generate all of these reports, and all of the information is available to all of the participants. And we think that by doing these things, that by bringing people who are closer to the action as well in, and by circulating everybody's material, we can get further into why somebody acted in a certain way or why somebody does something in a certain way. Next slide. Thank you. So my role as chair is very much that top arrow. And we talk about a process which reduces scope for blame. We don't ever profess to be able to completely eradicate blame because we are humans. We may attach blame to ourselves, to our agencies, or across agencies in a review. So my role is to remind us about that we work in a systems model. We know that everybody operates within a system, and that system is the place to very often generate learning in a review like this, so that we can generate the type of learning that is going to kind of expand out across agencies, across the multi-agency network in a way that would help us if these kinds of circumstances repeat themselves in future. We want to also learn from what went well. So a poor outcome situation for children and young people and families doesn't necessarily mean that all of the practice in all of these situations is poor. So we want to also learn from what went well. So what is going well that we want to repeat, roll out more widely, kind of create processes, policies, procedures to make sure that they happen again. So that is given equal emphasis in the review. We see this bottom arrow. This is early and regular engagement with families. And I will tell you something about that today so that you know what's going on in the background. That's very much my role rather than the role of yourselves in terms of producing reports. And then the arrow on the left is that we prepare a report. I will prepare a version 1 overview report that is instantly ready for publication. And that means that we will be anonymised right from the start in terms of that overview report. Next slide, please. So the process itself, we've already scoped the case. The scoping was when we produced the terms of reference that we're going to talk about today. That second box is where we commission the material, and that's today's meeting. Then it will be the move towards engaging with families. Then we will be into our learning event, and I will remind you of some key dates for that meeting. That's when we invite people along to debate what we see in the reports. Next box is me producing my version 1 overview report. Then we move into the recall event. So you will receive my version 1 overview report. Then a week later, we come into our recall event at which we debate the overview report. You talk to me about amendments that you propose, and then I perfect the overview report so that we can come into the bottom box, which is sign-off meetings. Next slide, please. Okay, so tuning in to our particular review. In terms of the subjects, we have 38 children who are pupils at a local school for children with special educational needs during the periods 2014 to 2017. There are others relevant to the review, and they are their family members. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. So just retain that for now, and we'll move on to some of the detail around engaging with family members shortly. Next slide is the time frame. Now, there's been considerable thought about this time frame, considerable thought gone into the terms of reference, and hopefully that's going to produce a proportionate review, because otherwise we generate learning for periods that's not as helpful, and meaningful learning. So learning that's going to kind of move the needle, so to speak, rather than go from a baseline of something that happened a long time ago that's probably already changed. And for that reason, the main focus of your reports will be the period September 24 to April 2025. Now, for some agencies, there are exceptions to that. So we will come to that shortly. But if we remember that for now, the main focus is analysing practice in that period. And then below that, here comes the caveat. Agencies are invited, you can reflect on historical events where this adds value to the learning for this thematic review. Now, again, that doesn't apply to everybody here. So we're going to get into the ins and outs of that shortly. So if that leaves you head scratching, we're going to come to that shortly. Next slide, please. Okay. So if you are in a position where you are to complete this exercise, you will need to speak to the practitioners. I'm going to invite you to introduce SILP to the practitioners in the way that I've introduced it to you. So the important headlines about this being about learning, not blame. This being a systems methodology, where we're looking at how the system operates and impacts on how individual agencies operate, and also in terms of the importance of directly engaging with practitioners and family. Okay, so those are the cornerstones of the review, the kind of underlying principles that it's really important that practitioners who are providing information to the review understand. So if that's part of your role, I would like them to hear those things, and to also hear that we're interested in what went well as shortcomings in practice. So yeah, we're talking about not only the what, but the why from your agency perspective. And we'll have a look at that shortly about what that means. And then being open and reflective about single agency learning. So by single agency learning, I mean, what learning do you generate for your own agency so that the review doesn't have to consider making recommendations about that? When we have a look at the templates and the forms that you've got to fill in, we'll look at how to do that. Next slide, please. Okay. Please, can you answer, rather than cover, can you answer all the questions that are posed to you? And the reason for that is that sometimes we need to hear why. So we need to hear your answer to it. If it's in the positive, that's great. If you can't answer it, it's equally important for you to tell us why. So rather than leaving it blank, could you say, can't answer this because otherwise we can form misunderstandings of an agency's remit, and that will become clear to you when you read all of the information. Next slide, please. Actually, I'm going to deal with the bottom bullet point as well. It doesn't matter, stay where we are, Mimi, but consider staff support needs. So I take responsibility for this. If you can highlight to me whether there are members of staff who are participating in the review who require support, and we would suggest that should be wraparound, as in not only in their own organisation, but also by potentially having some direct contact with me about what to expect before, during and after the review. So please can you flag that for me if that is going to be needed, or if you anticipate potentially it could be needed. Sorry, Mimi, next slide, thank you. Now, we want you to identify the learning for your agency, where that's asked of you. And of course, you can use learning from other processes that have been completed to enable you to do that. Can't see any hands up yet. So next slide, please. Sorry. What will my report cover? Now, this is where some people have a different set of questions to complete, different kind of online forms, etc. But if you are within the if you are in one of the organisations where you're going to be completing the larger agency template, it's headed agency report, we're going to have a run through that shortly. Okay, so most people here, I think, have kind of an online form where you're following the prompts, and then some people have the template to fill out, which is agency report template. And in that agency report template, you've got section 1, which is the narrative, the summary of facts. Section 2, which is anything that you want to tell us which is outside of scope, i.e. more historical. Section 3, answering the terms of reference, and section 4, your conclusions and recommendations. And what I'm going to suggest is that we kind of park that larger document for people to remain at the end and deal with the people who are filling in the form, who are in the settings themselves first. I hope that's not confusing. Next slide, please, but please raise a hand if it is. So if wherever you can, always consider why something was the case. So there's some examples there. It's very easy for us when we're writing reports, whether it's an agency report or whether it's me in my overview report, to state what happened, but not to state why. So, there's one at the bottom. The time frame for the parents needing to improve things was not stipulated. Okay, so the next question is, well, why wasn't it stipulated? Was there an assumption that they knew? Did the form not prompt you to stipulate the time frame? So there's always a bit more when we're being analytical, a bit more of the why that will really improve the outputs and the learning within this review. Next slide, please. In terms of the report flow, if you're following this template that's headed agency report, i.e. you're not in one of the settings, the education settings, the report flow, your report flow, will look exactly as my report flow will look. And that is the what happened, moving down into the why, this much more chunky part of the overview of the report, which is the analysis. Then we'll move into what the learning is, and then we'll move into the improvement action. So what are those things that you think that you want to improve within your agency? Next slide. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do the terms of reference for education partners. So this is you if you are completing that online survey. And hopefully everyone here knows if they're falling under that bracket. Raise a hand if you're not clear, if you fall into this one. And to summarize what it is. First bullet is your practice reflections and analysis. So we're talking about these current approaches. It will include policy, training, leadership, oversight, and culture. Second part of what you're doing in your online survey is an overview of the incidents. So you're going to give us an anonymised overview of any restrictive intervention incidents in that 2024 to 2025 autumn and spring terms. And then the third one is only for the school where the historic incidents of maltreatment took place. That's the 2014 to 2017. We also asked that school to answer the terms of reference questions that are in the next slide. Just looking around if there's any hands up. Okay, so what are the terms of reference questions then that are in this for the larger number of partners who are responding to us? Next slide, please. So the first set of questions are about historic incidents. And of course, you may not be able to answer that. You may not be able to answer some of these questions, okay? So where you hold this information, you answer these questions. So number one, how is best practice utilised in deciding how and when restraint was used in the local school for children with special educational needs, where the incidents of mistreatment occurred? That's the 2014 to 2017. How did standards held within guidance in the statutory framework compare with practice on the ground? I'm talking about the challenges. Next question. What consideration was given to children's race, ethnicity and culture and their intersectionality with issues around disability? How did these factors influence how they were treated in school? Please comment on the potential for adultification. Next question, how was the voice of the child incorporated into considerations around directing or implementing use of restraint? Next one, were children's protected characteristics factored into their education, health and care and articulated in their EHC plans? Please identify examples of positive practice within and across agencies. So, who are those who have been identified to answer that? And that should be found within the terms of reference document. So it's you if you are listed in 5.1. So actually, so local authority, police, NHS, NELICB, Tower Hamlets GP Care Group, NELFT. Okay, so all the others who are education settings are not asked to answer that. They're purely answering the online forms. But I'll finish them off because you might just be curious. So, voice of the child, with children's protective characteristics and positive practice within and across agencies. Next slide, please. Then we talk about the current practice, and this is the one about how would you or do you support schools, and that's where I think probably people will be able to say things that they've said today. What are the opportunities to support schools in their use of reasonable force and restrictive practice, and the potential impact this has on children? The more, how the multi-agency network supports the school, which in turn supports the children. And then if you are in a position to explore why and how these incidents occurred, what do you determine to be the contributing factors that led to these incidents of mistreatment? And in particular, that's if you have undertaken an investigation, which Joe has just alluded to, and you might be able to, from that investigation or report or analysis, is there anything that you want to bring through that will be helpful to the review there? Next slide, please. Additional issues. We are clearly anonymising all of our inputs to the review. Secure accommodation. Sorry, I'm just, again, like me. I've been in too many meetings today. Secure communication is being affected through use of passwords. Mimi is with us to support the review through this admin, and I've spoken to you a little bit that there will be a plan for publication. That is also going to be something that I will speak extensively to families about in the process of engaging with them. We've had some good news today about some mechanisms for me to begin that process. Next slide, please. The key dates. So the reports are due in on the 18th of September. There is a learning event on the 30th of September, 1 till 4. I would produce my version 1 overview report 28th of October. The recall event, when we all come back to talk about the overview report, 6th of November, 9:30 to 11:30. I would return to you with my version 2 overview report on the 12th of November. And then we would ask for some comments a week later so that we can get it signed off in 2025. Next slide, please. There is my email address there. So if you've got questions, I mean, obviously there are some questions that are more appropriate for the partnership, but if there's any questions in terms of what I've said today, you can use my email address, which is there as well. I just want you to feel like when you put pen to paper, so to speak, and if something like one of these wrinkles or how do I talk about this comes out, you have a direct line to me to unravel that.